Evening guys and girls, and welcome back to Mage Gaming. We're going to be continuing in our Legion class preview series, and today we're going to be looking at the Mage. And from what Blizzard have said, they've said basically that in terms of spec definition, overall designs, mages, as opposed to most other classes, are very much already where they need to be. So there's not really a lot that they needed to do for them except slight little tweaks and not really any real game-changing stuff. They basically think that each of the three specs is very distinct from the others, and that they really like that, and they're basically just trying to polish over that. The changes that they are making are more to prop up existing gameplay for all skill levels, and also to provide some quality of life improvements. For a simple example, Summon Refreshment now automatically provides you with a stack of food if you're adventuring out onto your own, or a table of refreshments while in a party of raid. It's all very small things like that, and probably the biggest change overall is actually happening to Arcane, and even that is not a big change. But let's just dive straight into it, shall we? So let's start it off with Arcane. Arcane Mage's abilities and gameplay already deliver much of what Blizzard believes that the spec's fantasy should be about quite well. So most of the changes are in vein of basically just polishing up what's already there. First, for added mechanical clarity, arcane charges are now an actual resource located underneath your mana bar instead of a stacking debuff. The functionality is still very much the same, but this change should make their accumulation and use more distinct. One of the major significant gameplay changes is that Arcane now has a new mastery, which increases your maximum mana by a percentage and increases the damage bonus of arcane charges. This should make the mastery feel a bit more interesting by allowing more aggressive mana usage as your mastery improves, and feel more empowering, ultimately giving you much more control over your rotation. So let's take a look at some of the classes of the specs new core abilities. And first up we have Arcane Blast. It's 5% mana, 40 yard range, blast the target with energy, dealing moderate arcane damage and generating an arcane charge. Arcane Blast damage is increased by 50% per arcane charge, and its mana cost is increased by 100% per arcane charge. Next we have Arcane Missiles, 40 yard range and it's channeled. It launches 5 waves of arcane missiles at the enemy over 2 seconds, causing minor arcane damage per wave, generates an arcane charge. Arcane Missiles damage is increased by 50% per arcane charge. Arcane Missiles has also got a chance to be activated after each of your damaging spell casts. Limits of 3 charges. Next we have Arcane Barrage, 0.5% mana, 40 yard range, instant. Launches bolts of arcane energy at the enemy target, causing strong arcane damage, consumes all arcane charges. Arcane Barrage's damage is increased by 50% per arcane charge, and it hits one additional nearby target per arcane charge for 50% damage. Now taking a look at Evocation, channeled, 1.5 minute cooldown, gain 25% of your total mana instantly, and another 75% of your total mana over 6 seconds. Now taking a quick look at the new mastery called Savant. It increases your mana regeneration rate and maximum mana by 20% with mastery from typical gear. Arcane charges increase the damage of affected spells by an additional 10% with mastery from typical gear, and that's basically mastery Savant. And taking a look at Displacement, instant, 1.5 minute cooldown. For the next 4 seconds, casting Blink will not trigger its cooldown. And then to take a quick look at an arcane specific talent, they've shown us Quickening, which is passive. Arcane Blast and Arcane Missiles also grant 2% haste for 6 seconds and stacking. This effect is cleared when you cast Arcane Barrage. So that's basically it for Arcane. What do you think about it? Do you think that this will be able to fix the issue that a lot of Arcane mages are dealing with when they accidentally spend too much mana and they're not doing bad damage for the rest of the fight? What is your view on it? Just post it in the comments below. Now let's take a look at Fire. Similarly to Arcane, Fire already exudes its core identity, so their changes were more focused on gameplay adjustments. Ultimately, they want you to have more freedom in what buttons you press and more control over the heating up mechanic, which is core to Fire mages. In particular, the Inferno Blast ability was trying to fill 2 roles, both spreading Ignite and forcing a hot streak up from Heating Wave. So what they did was they opted to move the spreading of an innate property of Ignite and have taken Inferno Blast off the global cooldown so that you can more freely and intuitively use it to trigger a hot streak. Another major change that they're doing is the redesign of combustion. It's an incredibly complex skill, hard to understand for most people, and has the potential for either ridiculous success or critical failure. I can support that, with the odds being extremely random and very hard to gauge much of the time. They are redesigning it into something that fits into the fire rotation in a clear and consistent way. So let's take a look at Fire Mage's core abilities, so to speak. Firstly, we have Fireball, 4% mana, 40 yard range. Throw a fiery ball that causes moderate fire damage. Nothing new there. Next we have Hot Streak, passive. Getting 2 direct damage critical strikes in a row will make your next Pyroblast or Flame Strike spell instant cast and cause double the normal ignite damage. Developers have put a comment here: you may not start a new streak, aka gain heating up, while Hot Streak is already active, and that it was never their intention for players to sit with a Hot Streak active, then keep fishing for another heating up before throwing instant pyro out. In general, they don't like the game telling you how to press a button when you shouldn't. Next we have Inferno Blast, 2% mana, 40 yard range, instant, 12-second recharge, 2 charges. Blast the enemy for moderate fire damage. This damage is always a critical strike. Inferno Blast is not on the global cooldown and can be cast while casting other spells. Next we have Pyroblast, 5% mana, 40 yard range, 4.5 second cast. Hurl an immense fiery boulder that causes massive fire damage. I don't think there's anything new there. Then we have Combustion, 10% mana, instant, 2 minutes. Cooldown, engulf yourself in flames, increasing your critical strike chance by 100% for 10 seconds. Also grants you mastery equal to your critical strike stats, so that could be quite useful. The mastery is Ignite. Your target burns for an additional 30% with mastery from typical gear over 9 seconds of the total direct damage caused by your fireball, Infernal Blast, Scorch, Pyroblast, and Flame Strike. If this effect is reapplied, any remaining damage will be added to the new Ignite. Every 2 seconds, your Ignites may spread to another nearby enemy. And also a quick look at a fire-specific talent. We have Cinderstorm, 1% mana, 40 yard range, 1.5 second cast, and 8 second cooldown. It throws a spread of 6 cinders that travel in an arc and deal minor fire damage to the enemies that they hit. Overall, it's much more of a polishing than actually changing much. We'll give your own opinions down in the comments. Do you think that this is game changing? Really doubt that you'll think that. But do you like the way that they have just polished off the spec and made it seem a bit like it flows a bit better? Just let me know below. In comparison to the other specs, Frost really isn't seeing that much change. It's very, very small. Frost mages, in Blizzard's eyes, are very effective casters, and there's already a lot to like about choosing the spec. Frost's defining traits and abilities are cohesive, the mechanics are understandable, and there are plenty of opportunities for players to explore unique gameplay at a variety of skill levels. Rather than making any dramatic changes on how Frost Mage plays, what they decided to do was focus on particular outlier of their spellbook, which is the Frostfire Bolt. After removing the fire portion from the spell, it began to feel just like another Frostbolt. Well, obviously, because now you've just taken out the fire, it's Frostbolt. And what they decided to do was they wondered how the spell was supposedly combined fire and frost, and it wasn't just producing a puddle of water at the feet of the enemy, which is basically science. We've removed Frostfire Bolts and made Frozen Orb part of the core spell kit in its place, which better lends itself to the identity of a Frost Mage. Oh, that seems like a wise idea. I don't think Frostfire Bolts made a lot of sense. Science kind of disproves it. But anyway, let's get on to the core abilities of the spec. So we're starting off with Frost Bolt, 4% mana, 40 yard range, 2 second cast. Launches a bolt of frost at the enemy, causing moderate frost damage and slowing movement speed by 30% for 15 seconds. Not much of a change there. Frozen Orb, 10% mana, 40 yard range, instant, 1 minute cooldown. Launches an orb of swirling ice forward, dealing minor frost damage every 1 second to all nearby enemy targets for 10 seconds. Grants the mage 1 charge of Fingers of Frost when it first reaches a target. Targets damaged by the Frost Orb are slowed by 30% for 2 seconds. Next we have Ice Lance, 1% mana, 40 yard range, instant. Quickly fling a shard of ice at the target, dealing minor frost damage. Ice Lance damage is doubled against frozen targets. We got Brain Freeze, which is a passive. Your Frost Bolts have a 10% chance to reset the cooldown of Frozen Orb. Fingers of Frost passive. Your successful Frostbolt's hits have a 50% chance, and your Blizzard and Frost Orb ticks have a 5% chance to grant you the Fingers of Frost effect. The Fingers of Frost effect causes your next Ice Lance to act as if your target were frozen and deal 140% increased damage. That's a lot of damage. Next we have Shatter, which is a passive, multiplies the critical strike chance of your spells against frozen targets by 1.5 and adds an additional 50% chance. And finally we have the Mastery, which is called Icicles. When you damage enemies with Frostbolt, 45% with Mastery from typical gear of the damage done is stored as an icicle with you for 30 seconds. Also increases the damage that your water elemental deals by 45% with Mastery from typical gear. Up to 5 icicles can be stored at once. Excess icicles that are generated will automatically be launched. Casting Ice Lance causes any icicles to begin launching at the target. And then finally we'll just take a quick look at one of the frost specific talents, Glacial Spike. 1% mana, 40 yard range, 3 second cast. Conjure a massive spike of ice and merge your current icicles into it. It impales your target, dealing massive damage plus the damage stored in your icicles. It requires 5 icicles to cast. Also freezes the target in place for up to 4 seconds. Damage caused may interrupt this effect, however. And passive Ice Lance no longer launches icicles. So that might work very well in terms of the rest of the spec. It seems to be quite a nice addition to the talent tree. So that's it for the Frost Mage. What do you guys think? Do you like it? Do you like the Frozen Orb's new style of integration with Fingers of Frost, etc., etc.? And what do you think of that spec? It sounds like it could be quite a cool idea. Of course, we'll have to wait until the beta to be able to properly see it in action, but at the moment it's sounding quite cool. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So overall, not many changes have been happening to the Mage. It's much more of a simple polishing and just working out some kinks while simply refining the specs quite a bit more, but not on such a serious degree that they're going to feel completely alien. If anything, they should be one of the classes that is going to feel very similar to how they did or how they do feel right now. But let me know your own thoughts. Leave it in the comments below. Let me know, what do you think? If you're a serious Mage player and you absolutely hate these changes, do you think that Savant is terrible, or do you absolutely love the idea of it? Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please rate it thumbs up and subscribe, and leave a comment below giving me your thoughts, obviously. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.